Top of the morning, everyone. My name is Tshidi. I'm back with another video, and today we're actually going to be speaking about CVs as well as resumes. I'll just take a few minutes to speak about the difference between the two. Don't forget to subscribe, guys, and make sure that you hit the bell icon and share this with some of your friends so that you don't miss an opportunity every time I load something online. And then please don't forget to also put some comments so that we know exactly what you guys would like to see and what you'd like me to share going forward. And remember, sharing is caring, which is very important. And looking forward to actually discussing this a bit further. Now, let's start actually talking about the difference between a resume as well as a CV. Now, resumes are normally a short, brief description of your skills and your abilities as well as your experience that you put on a document. It's normally 1 to 2 pages, and that's what a lot of recruiters are normally looking for, whereas a CV is a bit more detailed. Sometimes it even comes with some portfolio of evidence that some people then bring across. And it's tailored in such a way that it's actually a bit more generic, and where the differences come in is normally in the cover letter. And then the difference also with the resume is that with the resumes you'll find that in some cases you can actually tailor it per role that you're actually applying for. So don't forget to actually make sure that you check that out, because you can actually go online and just see some of the examples of the differences in the resume as well as the CVs. And it's very important that you actually are able to distinguish between the two. But in most cases in South Africa, we just call a CV a resume and a resume a CV. So it doesn't really make much of a difference at this stage. So the next topic I'm going to address today is actually regarding cover letters or motivation letters that a lot of companies or a lot of people actually sometimes ask for. Those are very important because it also is the difference between whether the message that you're trying to address to the person is actually going there or the message is actually getting lost, because some people will then put together a cover letter that doesn't necessarily speak to what they're looking for. So let's start now with the resume stroke CV so that we know exactly what you need to put in there. Your resume or your CV should always have your contact details, and they should always be clear. Now, I've seen a lot of people that have used examples of resumes with trains or with different things where the cover letter has got those huge curricula vitae of so and so, and they've got that name there. Unfortunately, that page is no longer necessary. I think we stopped using that page years and years ago. And also because remember that page normally then ends up wasting or ends up increasing the number of pages that you've got on your resume. So just get rid of that page and make sure that all your resume pages are numbered, because it's always important that if somebody then finds your resume or finds a piece of it, they'll know that it's one of whatever number that is, instead of just having a unnumbered resume. So first thing that you need to make sure that is actually out there is, number one, is your contact details. Who are you? No abbreviations of names or where you put TDK. You should just say Tshidi Kuno. That's your name. That's what everybody knows you as. So make sure that you've got that. The next thing that you also need to always have is basically your phone number, your telephone number that people will be able to actually get hold of you on. This is very important because in most cases you'll find that people's documents or resumes then get sent out to some of the companies, and you find that we're not able to then find out who the person is that actually applied for that role. So make sure that regardless of anything else, if there's anything you forget in your resume, you actually do not forget the fact that you actually have your contact details listed there. Second thing that you also then do have is your email address, which is also very important. Email addresses should also be simple enough, should be visible enough. Don't hide it at the far end of the page where nobody can see it, because some people will not necessarily always just go looking for that email address. So make sure that you've got that email address right there, and that's included. Now, I do also realize that a few months ago I used to say, a picture in your resume is actually not important anymore, but I've now realized also that my audience has actually evolved, or my audience is now different. Some are in different countries, so it's very important that I make sure that at least I address the different resumes and how they should look like, regardless of the country that you're in. Some countries it's normally a requirement that you should actually have a picture of yourself. I'm not quite sure as to why it's such a big thing in some of these places, whereas in South Africa we have always been used to not having a picture. So you don't necessarily have to put a picture of yourself, because in some cases you'll find that it could lead to some form of bias or discrimination of some sort based on what people might assume of you when they see that. Physical address is one of the things that people always put in their resume. I always say, if it comes to physical address, please do not put your exact location of where you are. There's nothing wrong with writing Katlehong zone 15 and just leave it there. Please do not put your address as in like number 25, zone 25 of Katlehong and this and that, because unfortunately we don't know where that's always going to land, and who's going to actually pick up that resume. And then in some areas you'll find that your ID is a requirement, especially in South Africa. We need your ID number. So in some cases, I'll say, instead of putting the whole ID number, put the first 6 and the last 3 numbers. The middle numbers you can always put X's in between, because you don't always want somebody to see exactly what your ID number is, especially with identity theft that's been happening a lot in the past couple of years. So just be very careful that you're not providing the people that might pick up your resume somewhere in the dustbin of somewhere, some company out there or some other place, where that person will then take your physical address of exactly where you are, as well as your ID number, and then go duplicate those contact details. So it's very important that you actually keep those very private and you don't share it around. The next thing that I always say, in South Africa, your date of birth is not necessarily required. If you have your ID number, we can already deduce based on your your ID number as to what your date of birth is. Whereas in other countries, your date of birth might be a requirement, mainly because you don't always have the ID number being the one that tells you exactly how old that individual is. And I also do understand that there's other people that might not necessarily be, they might be living in South Africa, but they do not have the South African ID number. So in that instance, you don't necessarily have to put your ID number, then you can put your date of birth. It's very important sometimes to just put that information. And once you've got that information, remember, number one is your name, who are you, your contact number, that's very important, your email address, how do I get hold of you, and then from there you then need to also look at all the other information like your ID, and gender is also important. But I think in this day and age where people are gender fluid, I think it's a bit tricky to sometimes always force people to actually identify with a gender. And also the other thing that's also sometimes very important, especially from a reporting point of view in South Africa, is your race, where it's also sometimes important to be able to say what the person's race is. So that's basically the first few things that you need to actually have on your CV. But remember, that should not take more than 30% of your CV. If it's more than 30% of your CV, then you'll find that you actually then end up wasting a lot of space on your resume. So that is the first things when we're now speaking about the contact details. The next thing that we then going to jump into is speaking about your, some people put in an objective there. Now, objectives are normally a short little summary. It's not a cover letter. It's a short little summary that tells you what this person is trying to achieve and why they would like to actually come and join that company. Unfortunately, the objective can't always be generic. You have to sometimes actually tailor it per company, because you have to speak to specific things about why that company and why you'd like to join that company. So that's one of the things that people will have. It's normally just one paragraph. Anything more than one paragraph becomes an overkill, then it becomes a cover letter. So you don't necessarily need to put that in that particular document. So that is now where we've now covered just, let's say, maybe just above half the page or 40% of your document. So you can already see that this is not going to take that many pages. So it's very important that you actually have that information there. You have now covered your contact details, the information that I mentioned, guys, that it's extremely important that you actually have that information so that everybody's now seen it. And before I get into the next one, once again, please, guys, don't forget to click subscribe, because I do need your support to be able to continue doing this. Unfortunately, if there isn't that many people actually clicking on this or sharing this or being able to actually see this, then it just says to me that not many people need this anyway. So if you can just not forget to subscribe and make sure that you click the bell icon to see every video that I load. And my YouTube page is actually Tshidi's Top of the Morning. So it's very easy to actually find me. Tshidi's Top of the Morning. You'll be able to find the rest of the content there. Now we then move into experience. That's very important. Now, a lot of us recruiters or a lot of people then focus a bit of their attention on experience. First thing first is make sure that you actually have the name of the company that you worked for, the role that you actually were playing in that company. What is your role? Now, when it comes to the role, a lot of people, some companies have got different naming conventions that they use within the company. My advice to you is please make sure that when it comes to a resume that you're sending to the external stakeholders, you make sure that the title of the role that you've got is the same title that resembles what you're looking for outside, if that's actually the case. Please do not where they call you a fish cooker, which basically means somebody who makes amazing things happen, and then you then use the same title on your resume, because some of us will then look at it and not even know exactly what that means. So just use the same naming conventions that are currently used outside, so that everybody knows exactly what we're talking about. The next thing is actually the dates. Dates, guys, are very important. And when I talk about dates, I'm talking about what month did you start at that company and what month did you end at the previous company, or wherever you might be coming from. Always double check on that information, because some people then say I was in that company in 2017. Fantastic. 2017 is a very long year, 12 months to be exact. So 2017 could have been 2017 Jan, 2017 June, 2017 December. So just make sure that you actually put the dates, and the dates basically meaning 2017 June or 2017 January. It makes things a lot easier for a lot of people to actually know. And then after you have covered that, that's like the first three things that everybody will see before they go anywhere else. Then from there, you then have bullet points. Please do not, okay? Keyword here is please do not go out there and copy your job spec and then paste it onto this particular role, because the sad thing about that is when you copy the job spec and you paste it onto your CV, and we start the interview and we say, oh, we see here you were doing the following, and you're like, oh, that's actually one of the reasons why I'm leaving. I didn't manage to do that. That's what they told me I was going to do, but I didn't end up doing that. So that's one of the reasons that I'm leaving. Now, based on the fact that you said it to your experience, it means that you've actually been lying to us about the information that's on your resume. So do not put information like that doesn't make sense, because then we then look at you like just upfront from you now saying, oh no, I did this, and then we say to you, oh, tell us a bit about this, and you're like, no, I didn't really do that. That's what they said I was going to do. Already at the back of the recruiter's mind is like, okay, this person is already lying. So you're already outside of the positiveness of the role that you're actually looking for. So make sure that you put information that you actually ended up doing. The other thing that we always say is between 6-7 bullet points that you actually need is all you need in your experience. You can push it up to 10 bullet points, which is still fine. But I always say it's easier to summarize some of the bullet points instead of putting one dot after I received people at reception and then I walked them to the boardroom and then I walked them out of the boardroom. Those are 3 bullet points that people put in. So just say you hosted people or you received people, and that's basically that. So we can make an assumption and you can explain a bit further when it comes to that. So that is now tackling the issue of experience. For those that do not have experience, one of the things that I always say to them is, like, especially students, I always say to you guys, number one, whether you were a waiter, that is actually considered to be work experience. So make sure that you put that in there. If you volunteered, make sure that you put your volunteer work in that, because that's also very important. What it shows us, or what it shows the recruiters, is that you're able to relate and connect to different people from different environments. So don't be scared to put information about you volunteering at your church event, or you volunteering at school, or you volunteering at this. That is also very, very important, because also sometimes it speaks about your ability to have a bit of leadership in some of those instances. So just don't forget to make sure that you put that. Once that is actually covered, you then talk about your qualifications. So qualifications, you can look at it in 2 ways. Number one, you can put it just before experience, or number two, you can always put it at the bottom. For a lot of people that have got a lot of years of experience, if qualification is not necessarily the requirement for you to actually get that role, then you can put it at the bottom. But if it's a requirement for you to actually get the role that says, they're looking for a quant, then make sure that just before experience, you actually put your qualifications. Now, this is how I always say, you always put with the latest qualification first. Please do not ever start with your high school. Always make sure that you start with the latest qualification. And in this instance, make sure that if you have a university degree, you put up what your university degree is. The following are very important. Number one, name of university, very important. The degree that you actually studied, the majors that you did in that university, followed by the year of completion. That's all you need to put there. And then for that, if you have had, let's say, for example, some distinctions, just make sure that you highlight that. You can always say 6 distinctions at university or 10 distinctions at university. Please do not put every distinction that you have passed, because that basically means now a resume that could have been 2 pages, is now 15 pages. By the way, guys, with what I've already explained, it's taken only roughly about 2 pages. And then there are people that have also done some courses online, so Udemy courses. Please share some of those, because then you can actually put on some of the courses that are there. Just highlight what's the Udemy course, what is the qualification, and when did you complete it. That's all you need to worry about. You don't need to also, once again, put 100 of the topics, because, like, for example, with Udemy, like, you'll find that it's got a topic after topic after topic after topic. There's more than 100 topics, because it's about 200 hours of just you listening to these topics. So just highlighting what course it was, what year you completed, is also very, very important. Now that addresses the experience as well as the education element that I was talking to you guys about, which is very, very important. Once again, please don't forget to subscribe. Don't forget to share this link with some of your friends. Make sure that they also get a chance to actually see what is here. Please don't forget to comment as well. Share some of the comments, because it's always nice when we actually put some of the comments in, and then I can know what topics you guys would like to focus on. I always like to make sure that from a topic point of view, I hear from you guys. You guys tell me what topics you'd like to address, and then I'll try and focus on that. Cover letters. Now, cover letters are very important for some of the companies. I know some of the companies focus a lot more attention on cover letters, and depending on the country and the jurisdiction and the area that you're applying for, you'll find that they normally sometimes do need cover letters. What is also very, very important about cover letters, guys, that cover letters are never ever generic. So please don't put one cover letter that you're going to use for every company, because then you're literally going to lose that opportunity. Your cover letter should be directed to, number one, the job that you're actually applying for. Number two, the exact skills that these guys want to see. You need to highlight those in the cover letter. And number three, it should also be directed to what capabilities and skills you currently have that this role is actually looking for. So the mistake that some people do is they'll sit down, put the best looking cover letter online, and then from there, every job that comes up, they just forward the same cover letter for that. Now, unfortunately, it doesn't show that you've read the job spec and you've read exactly what they're looking for from a job spec point of view. So it's very important that you then take the cover letter and make sure that you tailor it per role that you're actually applying for. That is extremely important. Cover letters normally about 3 paragraphs, I think, are enough. It should only be 1 page, nothing more than 1 page. Anything more than 1 page is an overkill. That's very, very important. Now, there's a few things that the cover letter should actually cover. First thing first on the cover letter is, what are you applying for? What's the role that you're applying for? Because that's also very important. Once you've covered what role you're applying for, why do you think you're suitable for that particular role? What skills have you gained that will actually make you a suitable candidate for that role? And why do you think you actually stand out when it comes to that role? These are the 4 things that you need to focus on. Anything more than that is where you're actually now making sure that you're elaborating a bit more about this information. That's why I'm saying 3 paragraphs is normally enough. And then because you'll then highlight 1 or 2 successes that you've had in the cover letter, and those successes will then speak to the role itself. They shouldn't speak to just about anything. You can't talk about, I've spent 24 hours not eating, and the role is actually speaking about people that can do other things. It needs to highlight why that you consider that to be a success. Those are some of the things that you need to focus on when it comes to cover letters. So I hope this has been helpful to a lot of you guys. And also, once again, like I said, please don't forget to subscribe to my YouTube channel. Share this with some of your friends. And we'll be running a few competitions the next couple of months to make sure that people are able to, play and be part of this discussion. But please don't forget to comment. Don't forget to hit the bell icon and make sure that you don't miss any opportunities or any videos that I post online. And once again, top of the morning, my name is Tshidi, as I mentioned earlier, and looking forward to hearing your views, guys, about this. And until tomorrow or until next time, thank you. I'll try to do this every Tuesday, so looking forward to some of your comments. Thank you. Bye.